But so I'll give some guided instructions as we go along. But because it's usually the Monday night is a little bit aimed more at people that have a bit of a foundation, we might sort of introduce some topics. We might introduce some different kinds of meditation that might be, you mightn't understand exactly why we're doing it at the start. But just if you don't really get it, or it's maybe a little bit confronting, you can just don't worry about it. Just sort of put it to the side and tune me out, kind of thing. So, but for everybody else that has been here, and again, because you're new, I'll do some pretty simple guidance as well. But for anybody that does have a little bit of an establishment in the practice, what we'll do tonight is we'll do the first half where we're calming our mind, we're trying to still our mind to some extent. But then when we get to the back half of the meditation, I'll offer some different kinds of reflective guidance. And these guidances are there for you just to essentially use your wisdom in some kind of way to reflect on a question or reflect on a Dhamma theme in some way. And that topic is going to be the impermanence of our existence. And so if anybody feels a little bit uncomfortable with this, it feels like it's something that's a little bit too confronting, again, the same caveat goes. You can just go at your own pace. You don't have to follow along. If it is a bit too confronting, just pull back and go back to your normal meditation. But it's these, if you are okay just to sit with a little bit of ambiguity, sit with a little bit of maybe discomfort to some extent. These are quite powerful reflections that we can do and something that we can bring into our practice. So just a caveat, a bit of a forewarning before we get into it. And again, as I said, if you go at your own pace, just relax. If you don't find it useful or you find it a bit too confronting, that's fine. Just go back to your normal meditation and just tune me out. So with that, we'll get started then. We can start off by taking a comfortable seat. Either on the floor or on a chair, it's okay. You can just start by taking a few deep breaths, really breathing in actually through your mouth and exhaling through your mouth. Just letting go any tension, any tightness. Just gently starting to adjust your posture and making it feel more relaxed, more at ease as you take these deeper breaths out. You can soften the different areas of your body. And if you notice anywhere in your body that has tension or tightness there, maybe in your shoulder, maybe in your chest, in your face, in your jaw, your forehead, anywhere that maybe seems tight or tense or strained in any way. As you continue to breathe in and breathe out deeply, just soften those areas. Let them relax, let them unwind. can continually make these little adjustments to allow your body to settle in and sink into its place and to relax. And now you can start to notice the different sensations throughout the body in a little more detail. You can just scan your attention from the top of your head down through your body to the soles of your feet. And just notice what any sensations there are there. We don't have to react to them, we don't have to change them. Just notice them for what they are. They're simply sensations that come and go and change. Just spend the next few moments yourself scanning your attention around your body, noticing all the different kinds of sensations that are there, the tingling, the pressure, the temperature, your vibrations, slight movements. And as you move your attention through your body, you might be starting to relax now and be a little bit more at ease and a little bit more calm. Just see if you can let your attention rest on one area. Might be the sensations in your hands or in your chest. Or even in your face, in your nose, wherever it feels most comfortable to allow your attention to rest in one spot. Just simply allow it to stay there. If it's in the chest or the nose or in the stomach, you can also notice the breath coming and going. This simple and rhythmic movement of the air coming in and going out. The different sensations that arise with that. Just see for the next few moments you can try to keep your attention just in one area, on one object. And whenever the mind does wander off and drift away, not to be so concerned, but just simply bring it back to this object. Just doing this over and over again. Just spend the next few moments just doing this of your own accord. again if your mind wanders off, get distracted, or even start to feel sleepy or drowsy. You simply come back to this object that we placed our attention on, maybe the breath or the sensation in the hands. And just simply start again. No need to be discouraged. Just simply start over again. As you sit here, just simply sitting, keeping your attention on your breath or on the sensations, just take a short moment to take stock of what kind of state you're in at the moment. Hopefully there's some peace there, or calm, or stillness. Some happiness, some joy. There could also be some drowsiness, some lethargy. Maybe a bit of boredom, frustration. Just notice whatever kind of state you're in right now. And regardless of whatever state that is, just see if you can turn inward and find the goodness in what you're doing now. Find some kind of brightness or gratitude for this fact that you're taking some time out for yourself. You have this opportunity to try to improve the quality of your mind and the quality of your life. You have this time to spend it meditating. And how rare it is to actually get this time, get this opportunity. We spend so much of our lives caught up in other things. So see if in your heart or in your mind you can just smile at this opportunity and be grateful for it. That you're giving yourself this gift, this blessing, this time. This moment that's precious. And just pause to realize how fortunate and lucky we are. And to simply carry on with our meditation, watching the breath or the sensations, again with this smile in your heart. in the last part of the meditation tonight. I'm going to move into some mindful reflections, some mindful contemplation. And again, just do these at your own discretion. If they become uncomfortable or overwhelming, you can just pull back and go back to your normal method of meditation. But for everybody else, we'll pose a question. And just see if you can hang out with the ambiguity or the uncertainty of the answer to these questions. And if you do get an answer, just see if you can keep inquiring and digging deeper. And to ask it with sincerity, curiosity, and openness. And the first question that we ask ourselves is, will I die? Can mindfully reflect and contemplate deeper, and ask yourself again, will I die? next question, we can contemplate deeply again. Just ask yourself, when will I die? This is the most uncertain question that we can answer. But again, ask yourself and truly let it sink in and contemplate it. This question of when will I die? mentally time travel and take yourself to that place, that point in time in the future when you're just about to die. You might be in a hospital bed or surrounded by loved ones. And ask yourself this question. I'm about to die. And what kind of things mattered to me in my life? What kinds of things were important? What kinds of things mattered to me? And what was important in my life? Really contemplate these answers as you picture yourself there in those final moments. Again, ask yourself, what kinds of things mattered to me in my life? What kinds of things were important to me? in the last few moments of the meditation. Just recollect how fortunate you actually are. How precious of an opportunity you do have. How grateful you can be for your own existence, this time we have. You can take a few deep breaths. And inhale the life we have now. Be grateful for it. And start to feel your body again. And the sounds all around you. And notice that this is life, and it's precious. And how lucky and fortunate we are to have it. Okay, you all did well. Usually when you do those kind of reflections, there's always a few people that get up and walk out. So you did well to stay here, especially if you knew we were all done. Just as a bit of post hoc debriefing kind of thing. For anybody that isn't familiar with these kinds of practices where we do recollect death, we do recollect our own mortality. It's not about, being morbid and being sort of Chicken Little and the sky is falling and it's all hopeless. It's not really about that. It's what we do these reflections for is for us to really think about how fortunate we are that we have the opportunity that we have. How lucky we actually are that we do get this existence. And it's not about thinking about, oh, death is coming, but it's about reflecting and asking ourselves, how do we actually want to live the life that we have? Asking ourselves these questions, gives us some kind of perspective. It allows us to, drop some of maybe the useless things that we think about, the distracting things, or the stupid things that we get caught up in. It allows us to go, well, they're just sort of a waste of time. So it's not about thinking about death and going, well, death is coming and I should be afraid and I should be terrified. And it's not like that. It's about, well, how do I actually want to live my life? How can I make the most out of the time that I've got? So, Yeah, that's essentially the reason that we do these things, not to sort of, walk out of here as sad or as zombies or something like that. I don't know, but it's for really to in some kind of way. If you do this right, it brings a lot of energy. It brings a lot of clarity to one's life. So yeah, if it did make anybody feel a little bit too much, it's fine. Just sort of back off from it. There's no right or wrong ways to do these things. So with that, if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask questions now. If you're tired and you want to go home, you can do that as well. Up to you.
Ajahn, we might start with an online question.
Yeah, why not?
Then, while people are thinking or trying to get some thoughts back. None of the questions relate to the topic
That's fine.
of the guided meditation,
Okay.
but are related to meditation. The first question is the issue of meditation. I'm focused on the cushion. Then when I'm not in meditation, chaos ensues through senses, noises predominantly. I notice my nervous system becoming tense and the mind starts freaking out. How to be as focused and calm when not in meditation. I'm able to relax the senses overload when in meditation, but day-to-day life I become overwhelmed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a good question, and it's quite a common question, and it's quite a common issue that most people that are practicing some sort of meditation face. That it's relatively easy to become calm and become focused when we're sitting with our eyes closed and all the sensory world is turned off from us to some extent. But then we get out into the chaos of existence and traffic and buses and all these kinds of things. Then we can actually it can feel quite anxiety provoking, quite agitating. And so this is a pretty normal reaction. And while it can be disconcerting in some kind of way, try to also take a bit of encouragement from it. What it actually means is that your mind is actually, when you are meditating, your mind is starting to calm down. So this is actually quite a good thing. You're now noticing the disparities between a calm mind and the agitation of the world. So while it's not the most pleasant thing to be happening on the flip side of it, of being on that one hand of being out in the world, it's also showing a good sign that your actually meditation is progressing. So the question is, how do you actually deal with that? Well, this is, it's a bit of a cliched answer, but it takes time. It takes time to mediate between these two worlds to some extent. It takes time to recognize that, even when you're in the midst of the chaotic world, that you can be mindful to some extent. You can be mindful of your, as you said, your nervous system going haywire. You can be mindful of the sights and sounds and even the overload. You can be, you can actually bring some kind of awareness into that. And actually, in actuality, you already are. You're already noticing how busy and buzzing the world actually is. So you're already starting to become mindful of this to some extent. So the more you do this and the more you can go back to calming your mind when you're actually sitting in meditation, then going back out and, there's a little bit of restlessness there. Being mindful through that restlessness, accepting that restlessness, and essentially, accepting that's the way the world is. It's not going to change just because you're now meditating. It's not going to go, oh, you're meditating now, so everybody else needs to be quiet. It's not going to work. You're going to go out and there's going to be things happening. There's sounds and all these kinds of overload. So we just start to accept, well, look, this is the way the world is. Okay, and I'll just be mindful of it, and I'll accept it. And the more you can accept that this is the way the world is, the agitation starts to melt away at that time. So again, it's a good sign that you're seeing this. Don't be discouraged by it. Be encouraged by it, because it shows your mind's calming down. You just need a little bit of patience. It's going to take some time. But eventually, the more that you sort of accept that that's just the way the world is, the easier it is to move throughout the world, and the easier it'll be for you to develop calm in the face of the chaos, even when you're walking around in the world. So, yeah. Any questions in the room, or if not, maybe one more question from online, if nobody else has got one in the room.
Yes, thank you, Ajahn. I've never thought analysis is a meditation tool, but I'm having difficulty sharing the difference between concentration for insight and analysis to some friends. Can you help? So the difference between concentration for insight and analysis.
Analysis for friends. I'm not sure if I understand the analysis for friends.
Oh, sorry, explaining that to friends.
Oh, explaining that to friends.
The difference between those two things.
That makes more sense. Analyzing your friends.
No, yes.
I do that. So don't worry. I analyze everybody.
We all do that.
So look out if you talk to me. So the question essentially, is how do we sort of bring these two worlds together, and how do we, again, how do you actually explain that to people? That a kind of analysis and a kind of analytic kind of thought and a kind of contemplative kind of thought, this is also a practice as well. And so, you can do what most people do, and it's probably the best move. It's like, well, this is what the Buddha said for us to do, is to mindfully recollect, to use our recollection in some kind of way where it's directed at something, our analysis, our contemplation. So we can use this aspect, and we did some tonight. We had this, we're analyzing something about our existence. And this is something that has to go together with the calm. If you have to, most people think of meditation as developing some kind of calm, some kind of stillness, and they're right with that. That is right. But also, from the Buddhist perspective, what we're also trying to do is not just develop calm, but we're also trying to develop wisdom. We're trying to develop clarity. We're trying to develop insight into the nature of the way things actually are. So to do this, we have to look at it. We have to inquire into it. We have to observe it in some kind of way. And observation takes some form of analysis. You observe the thing, and it's not enough just to observe it. Okay, the ground there is bluey kind of white. The carpet's getting old, so or that area there, it's that's sort of white there. It's not just enough to observe it. We have to analyze it in some kind of way. We have to bring some wisdom to it. We have to bring some reflection to it. Okay, at that time, this carpet, maybe at one point it was white, it was fluffy, it was soft, but now actually it's sort of turning this, and I don't know if it's the lighting here, but it's sort of, or how bad my eyes are, like it's sort of turning this grey blue kind of, makes no difference, it's still grey blue, it's everything, yeah. So, and even then, you turn some parameters up in the world, and now this thing that's a color changes color. So it's good just to observe things, but we also need to analyze things in some way. And this is the thing that actually brings about some kind of wisdom. With the carpet, it's like, well, yeah, it started off soft and fluffy and white, and now it's getting older and it's changing, and it's changing color, changing texture. It's going through changes, and eventually, at some point, the carpet will rot away. So we have to, while we observe something, we have to analyze these things as well. We have to analyze the teachings. We have to analyze the teachings. Do the teachings make sense? How do we take the teachings and bring them into our lives? And we do this by inquiring and questioning and really starting to see through it. So the analysis, the recollection, the contemplation, it is a technique that we can use, and it's the thing that will start to develop insight. And the more that we actually develop this insight and clarity, the clearer we see phenomena as it actually is in its natural state. The more we can see phenomena in its natural state, this makes our mind calm. So the analysis supports the calm that you want to develop in the mind. And these things, again, play together. The more calm you have, the easier it is for you to analyze, reflect, recollect. The deeper you recollect and analyze, the more calm comes into the mind. So these things essentially get to the point where they become almost one and the same thing. So yeah, you can, explain to your friends, okay, you do meditation. If you're just trying to, have a bit of peace in your life, the calm, it's fine. But if you want to, understand something about your existence and essentially, do what is required on the Buddhist path, you do have to have some kind of analysis there. And so that's hopefully that can convince your friends. I don't know if it will, but hopefully it does. Well, it's implicitly happening and you don't know it. So we're doing it anyway. It's every time you talk to somebody, you analyze them. You analyze the body language. You analyze how they're interacting with you. At some point, we are always analyzing things. So, every time you talk to me, I'm analyzing you in some kind of way. Hopefully, you'd think my mind is nice and positive and all these kinds of things, and I'm analyzing you in the best way. But I'll leave it at that.
We just have one last online question, if we have just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Ajahn. Okay, last question. I have been practicing cultivation for 5 years. Due to causes and conditions, the frequency of thoughts has reduced. However, at times the quality of my thoughts is frightening. During cultivation, how can we improve the quality of our thoughts?
So, if you were here, I'd ask you essentially what kind of cultivations that you're actually doing. And you said you've been doing them for a long time. So, at some level, they must have the cultivating kind of practices you're doing. They probably have some kind of upside and benefit. And just for anybody that doesn't know, essentially what we mean by the cultivating practices from a Buddhist perspective is where essentially cultivating some particular kind of mind state. It might be something like kindness, it might be something like gratitude, it might be something like compassion. But we can also maybe even think of the cultivating practices in a way where we're doing something like we did tonight. We're cultivating the recollection of our own mortality, of death. And so I'd probably have to ask exactly what kind of cultivating practices you're doing, and in light of not getting a response to that, I'd say maybe the kinds of cultivation practices you're doing, you may be skewing it too far in one direction. So an example here could be something like, you might be doing too much of these cultivating practices of recollecting death in some kind of way, and you're tipping the scales just a little bit too far, and it is going into a kind of negative category. So what one has to do in these states is go, well, if my thoughts are going negative in this way, how can I balance that out a little bit? How can I weight my practice so it's not being weighed down too much into this negative kind of aspect? Have they replied yet, or no? Okay, no problem. How can we rebalance that in some way? So if it is, again, I'm just going to use that example of, you've gone too far into the recollecting death, and it's in some way it's pulling you down, pulling you into this negative territory. Well, then, you have to balance that out with something like, gratitude. Gratitude for life, finding these ways to uplift the mind in some kind of way, recollecting some profound teaching that you might resonate with, sort of using another kind of cultivation to balance that out. So if we do this and we do notice that our mind is getting negative from these different kinds of cultivation, and even to be fair as well, even if you do like a lot of like loving kindness meditation, it actually can unbalance you in some kind of way, and there's actually more evidence coming out now of these compassion and kindness practices actually for people that they don't have great self-esteem. It's actually quite negative for them. They're like, well, why can't I be happy? I'm trying to wish everybody happiness. Why aren't I happy? So this even happens with these states, these practices that bring about very positive states. So it's not just these cultivating practices that are more, you'd think are traditionally more negative, but it also can be some of the more positive looking ones. So don't feel bad if whatever kind of cultivation you're doing and it's making you sort of negative in some way. People just react differently to these different kinds of medicines that you give yourself. So essentially we just have to try to look, well, what if we're doing this practice and it's going negative in this way, how do I balance this back out? How do I balance this back out with another practice? How do I tip those scales back? And again, you have to, you said you've been doing this for 5 years, start again. Try different things, try different kinds of practices. Learn some different techniques, learn some different ways of practicing, learn some different ways of inquiring, search out different kinds of methods and techniques, and you maybe find something that works for you and can balance you out. So this is all just to say that it is pretty normal when you're doing the cultivating practices. It can take you down a negative way. I know myself, when I first became a monk, the first 5 years, going really hard with these kinds of cultivating practices, and I was getting angry, getting angrier and angrier, and frustrated, and all these kinds of things. And I didn't really realize that I needed to balance them out. And it's pretty normal when you're doing these cultivating practices that they will tip one way. So just notice that and just try to balance it out with something else. So cool. Okay, with that we might call it a night. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for sticking around for so long, and hopefully see you sometime soon-ish, whenever. Hopefully. And tomorrow night there's the teachings on tomorrow night, Thursday night, Friday night, is that right?
I think it's a guided meditation tomorrow night, and then the teachings Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night.
Perfect. I don't even know what day it is.
Sweet. So something on every night this week here at the BSV.
Yep. Okay. Very good. Okay. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ajahn.